Figure this out. Here we go. Okay, so basically I'm going to go through a bunch of drawings that I did of the West Carson yards through the years, and it's all based on work that other people have done, not me.
Sorry to interrupt, but can you go back to the initial slides? I didn't get it. Sorry. Thank you.
All the research done by Stephen, Tom, Mike, and Charlie. I can change now. Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so where?
I'm trying to stay with you. May not be possible.
All right, so where were they?
Possibly stand by the podium.
I don't have to see. We're,
On the side of it.
okay. So right about here in Carson City, at the time that was the edge of Carson City, and not so much anymore. So it started out in 1870, that was the initial construction of the engine house there. You see it's a short version here, not very long. And also there aren't any tracks here on Washington Street yet. The main line runs through, runs down Caroline Street. Sometime later, in the early 1870s, they made a bunch of changes. The engine house was extended to 120 feet, put in a turntable, probably. The carpenter shop was added. Washington Street line was added. And there was another building here, probably the sand and coal house. And there might have been a blacksmith shop in here somewhere too, or maybe this was the blacksmith shop. Don't know. It's kind of the same problem as the early Virginia City yards. There's one photograph that shows some of the stuff and one drawing, and they don't necessarily get a lot of information here. But by 1875, it's empty again. So in 1875, they built the big stone fort back to the east a couple miles. The carpenter shop here moves over there, gets another 40 feet added, and it's now the paint shop. This building burns down. The turntable disappears. Maybe it burned down with the other building. Not sure. And so this building now, by 1875, is just used for storage. And I think at this time we just have the Kimball train in here when it's not being used. 1880, by 1880, the smoke jacks, there were a couple of smoke jacks here, back up here on the end. Those are gone by now. And I think we've got, what, the Story in Ormsby in here now? Still just lying in the Ormsby. 1907, the Ford cupola's gone now. 1914, all the cupolas are gone. And by now we have the governor's mansion, which went in a couple years earlier, right next door. Fancy neighbors. 1916, now we take out the switch here on the Washington Street side and cut this off a little bit. I'm guessing, but have nothing to back it up, that we've improved the road here and just got rid of the switch to remove one of the impediments to the road there, but just a guess. 1923, we move a little bit more off this switch, or off this spur here, and maybe to give more space to the road, but don't know. 34, the roof gets repainted, probably a graphite color. 43, this spur is gone entirely now. So, nothing in between. 47, We pulled the rails up off the Caroline Street spur. The orchard here from Treadway Park is gone. Start grading that for the hospital. Punch the Mountain Street through there. 1949, the first hospital's in now. And they talk about replacing the wooden structure with metal, steel building. That never actually happened, and instead they tore it down. 1951, railroads abandoned, all the tracks are gone. They tear the building down and sell it off for subdivision. And basically nothing left. So here's an overlay here, satellite map, and overlaid with the 1916 valuation map. You kind of see where the tracks approximately went, where the shed was, under this house. And you see the governor's mansion here, really close.
The Bliss
There you go.
Mansion, the Bliss Mansion is just across the street from the governor's mansion, right in that area.
Yeah, the Bliss Mansion's across the street from the governor's mansion.
You can kind of see a scar here where the tracks used to go. They put this park in here before they pulled the tracks out in probably the late 40s, I think. And you can still see the property lines here. Now we have some pictures from Stephen's collection. This is the one picture we have from the 1870s. There's this building here, which was sand or coal shop, or maybe the blacksmith shop. This right here was probably the turntable, but maybe it was just a hoist too, right? By now, you can see the engine house has already been extended. And we've got this nice little addition here on the back, which was Sneed's addition. It's a Watchman, so we can see better from up high. And you can see here, there's nothing out here past a couple of ranches, but we're really on the edge of Carson here. This is a close-up of Cox's map. 1875, you see he doesn't draw the turntable in here, but he does have both these buildings. He doesn't have this connecting, but based on the way the tracks were later, don't think that they pulled the tracks up here and then shifted them over to connect. And down here you see Treadway's Park and orchards and everything. 1880, 1907, somewhere. No smoke jacks, but the front couple is still on here. And here you can kind of see some marks in the siding where Sneed's house was. Some other damage here, maybe there was another addition. Maybe they ran something through the end of the building. Some later images, 1937, 47. Here you can see just the ties left on the Carolina streets and in the 50s, just before it was torn down. And then these are some renders of the models I did. This was just a cut down version of the paint shop. Just a guess, right? It was extended into that, so I just took some pictures that Stephen had of the paint shop and cut it down a little bit. Sand and coal shop, the building. I put a couple doors in it, but the engine shed here with one of the doors. This version here, I have the windows boarded up. And then the turntable. And I just based this off of the one in front of the museum. Just a guess. Any questions?
Paint scheme?
Paint scheme?
What was it?
The paint scheme for which?
For the engine house.
Some of the pictures show some white trim. It was here. So this picture here, you don't really see a whole lot of trim there. So maybe it was all red. But some of these, you're seeing some trim here on the sides in a lighter color. Probably white based on colors they did other buildings with. And again, you can see some trim here on the side.
What about the doors?
Right here.
Would they have been green perhaps?
Could have been. Yeah, they're, it doesn't look like there's a lot of paint on them at the time.
I think we had red with white trim and a graphite roof on it and about 17, somewhere around there.
Yeah, the 30s, I think, in the graphite roof.
Whatever the name is. White doors. Maybe white doors for the.
The 37 picture here does look pretty. Yeah, there's not much paint left on them by now.
There will be an article on it in the next newsletter.
Yeah, so the next newsletter will have an article on this,
Yeah.
these yards. I think Mike will have plans of one of the versions of this engine house. Anything else? Thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. That's an interesting presentation because of the fact that there isn't that much material or knowledge about the West Carson yards. But I mean, it was a pretty busy section before the stone engine house was built. And then when, of course, when in '73 that was built, 75, I guess they were operational. So the West Carson yards became a storage area. They moved that carpenter shop, as he said, up to become the paint shop, and the other buildings burned. So there isn't much to it, but it's tough to find out.
What you don't see there is water.
The water was obtained from a tank up at, where was it, in the, can't think of it, I had a mental block.
Ash Canyon.
Ash Canyon, yes, thank you very much, couldn't think of the name.
There was a flume a little bit more to the west.
Yeah, that's where it came. The flume came down, there was a big tank, and they obtained water there. As a matter of fact, they drained water, they piped water into the depot and a few other buildings. Garrington's, he owned it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, guys, we wrapped it up. We're a little bit